Kylie, you got another report.
I was just going to say, should I stay here?
Curriculum.
Okay.
Bye, friends.
Can I just go,
I was assuming Dr. Skinkus would like to give a lead into this report.
So the curriculum report that we're going to present now is, well, there's a couple things. The Curriculum Advisory Council met last week, and we always review any changes to the curriculum guide, whether it's new courses being offered or changes to course titles, things like that. Also, we discussed a summer internship program. So we have some general language written. We discussed it with the Curriculum Advisory Committee. Kylie will report out on the committee that met at the building level with some teachers and with some building level administrators. And we're going to put the summer internship for an elective credit on the books this October, and students will be able to do a 8-week summer internship in the summer of 2020 in order to earn elective credit towards graduation and meeting a graduation requirement. We thought we could possibly pilot it this year, but after meeting with my advisory council, the 2 board members felt like we should make sure we have all of our T's crossed and staff support things in place instead of trying to rush it through here in the last month before summer school. Put it in the curriculum guide, give it fair communication, and then go to implement that next summer.
So what does, draw me a picture of what this means. Does that mean the student goes out and looks for a job as an intern, or what?
No, I'll let Kylie explain.
I'll get to that part. So I wanted to first, before I go into highlighting the language on the summer internship, I wanted to just give you kind of an overview of the Career and Internship Committee. Myself and Beth Augustine have been chairing that committee for the last handful of years. We have faculty representation kind of on a revolving basis from 6 different departments in the building. So we've been really excited. Instructional coaches, vocational facilitators, paraprofessionals, our speech language pathologist was at our last meeting, so there's a lot of interest around this topic and around supporting students. Our goal or our mission really is to provide students with the resources to explore those potential careers and potentially get experience, real live on-the-job experience while they're still in high school, so that when they leave RB, they are situated in the best possible spot to be successful in the pathway of their choice. So some of the highlights from the committee over the last couple of years are when we last updated the curriculum guide, we added a more robust and expanded dual credit section for the opportunities that students can take at Triton College, so that they can, if they choose to, even start to pursue some technical certificates while they're still in high school, if that is a route that they might be interested in going through. We have 2 students in the next school year who are going to be pursuing those dual credit opportunities. So those are the first students that we've had that are going to really pursue dual credit on a formal basis in conjunction with us. We had 1 student, I want to say it was 3 years ago, who was pursuing a CNA certificate, but we didn't know he was doing it until he was partway through the program, and he had started doing it because his sister had done something similar. So we have 2 students that are going to be doing this next year to earn high school credit while they're taking courses toward their future at Triton. Also, what is new is that there are 2 new school day dual credit cohorts at Triton that are available to juniors and seniors beginning next year. So there is a daily criminal justice cohort that meets from 8 to 11 a.m. each day, and there is a daily automotive engine repair cohort at Triton College that meets from 12 to 3 p.m. per day. Each day. So this would be a program where students would come to RB for part of their day and they would go to Triton for the rest of their day. There are some barriers to that in terms of the student cost. We would be looking at $2,400 a student for a student who wanted to engage in that experience. And then, of course, what makes it probably the biggest challenge for us is the transportation piece. So students would have to get their own transportation to Triton to be able to do that. And this is a cohort that along with Elmwood Park, Ridgewood, I believe, looking to work together as a cohort of schools to get some students signed up for that. To my knowledge, right now, we don't have any students. This is fairly new, so we don't have any students that have expressed interest in this, but the Student Services Department and myself and through this committee are really trying to advertise and push that experience, because we know that we're going to have some students that would really fit nicely into that category. And if that were something that would, really begin to grow and flourish, and we had a large group, then we would be able to kind of look at how as a district we continue to support students toward that in terms of transportation and things of that nature.
Let me freeze you right there.
Mm-hmm.
Don't lose your spot.
Okay.
One thing the board will have to consider that we've talked about a little bit, Kristen and I, is whether we can use some title funds for this, or if we create a reimbursement program for a student that wants to do this, so that they're doing dual credit or dual enrollment, that if they kept maybe a C or better, or they passed that class with a C or better, the board will reimburse them for taking that class. The transportation piece, we don't have enough to order a bus from First Student, so one of my thoughts was we'd pay for that student's CTA card if they didn't have their own means of transportation, which is still a minimal expense. And the thing that the board will need to weigh is it ties into that board goal and what the board wanted from this committee of getting kids on career pathways and dual enrollment and starting off those things sooner. Also, if you compared expenses, those students would be taking 2 or 3 courses here, and we'd be paying for teachers and supplies and things for that there. So if we paid reimbursed for the dual enrollment at Triton and possibly a CTA pass, it's a fair trade-off.
One of the things we've talked about a lot on this committee is the need to educate students about vocational opportunities and trade opportunities. We know as a society in general that we are starting to see a real need in trade areas, and we're also starting to see students in today's society that are not ready to go to college when they graduate high school, or maybe they don't want to at all. They want to work with their hands. And so we've talked a lot about making sure that the experiences that we create through this committee service all of our students, the broad spectrum of students, those students who want to go to college and those students who might want to pursue professional careers right away. So to that end, the Construction Industry Service Corporation, or Cisco, is going to be here on May 8th during third period to give students an opportunity to learn about those skilled trades careers, because what we're finding out is that some of our students, and we've had students self-report this once they left RB, felt like there were so many things out there in terms of the skilled trades that were very lucrative also. They could have made really good livings at, and students just didn't know about those experiences. So we want to make sure that we hit the broad range of all of our students, and that's one way, as we have college visits, as we have students who can sign up to talk to a college admissions counselor, we want to be able to have students be able to experience what is out there in the world of the skilled trades as well. To that end, also, the committee is going to look at how we roll out at the beginning of next year a way to enlist the community in career spotlights. So through our Naviance data, when the counselors do Naviance lessons with our students, Beth is able to pull what are the highest interest careers that come out of that Naviance data. And then again, just as we would have colleges come out for students to come in on their lunches or during a certain period of the day to learn about that college, maybe we have some actuaries in the community, if that's one of our really high interest areas, who might be willing to come in for an hour and talk to our students about what does that career entail. You always hear the story of the student who was positive they wanted to go into nursing, and the first time they saw blood, they passed out and hit their head and thought, now what am I going to do? So we really, one of our focus areas is really to get students able to have exposure to those high interest careers now, so that they have an idea of what they want to do, not even necessarily if they make the choice yet, but they just know what's out there. We have a lot of students who maybe are good in math, but they don't necessarily want to be a teacher of math, and so what else can I do if I'm good in math? So we want to be able to bring professionals in to talk about some of the different things that they do and give students that exposure.
So the last time we talked about this, you talked about this very subject and having them come in, and I thought about what if, when they do come in, we had a Q&A that was videotaped, and then you guys create a repository.
That's awesome.
Of all of
I love
these
that.
careers, and then then you don't have to keep asking people to come back, and then kids can just, Beth and kids can dial them up whenever they want.
Absolutely.
Right?
That's awesome. I love that
I mean,
idea.
you'd have to refresh them, some of them every once in a while,
Sure.
right? Like,
But if you
things
have a
change and the
bang-up
interest,
presentation on
right.
law, then
Right.
you've got it. That's a great idea.
So.
Yeah, because I was going to ask about those kids, like when you say, well, we'll advertise it, like what does that look like? Because when you make an announcement, when you hang up a flyer, the kids that don't hear the announcements, don't read the flyers, who this might really be, just what they need. Like, how do you reach those kids?
So
Is it on the guidance counselors to kind of pick kids that they know that might be a good path for them?
some of them, yeah. We really, and we have this luxury because we're a small school, we really try to tap into every resource that we can. So we notify guidance counselors, we notify case managers. I send, correspondence to the teachers, and I meet with the instructional coaches, and we just start talking about things because everybody knows one kid who might benefit from this.
We have this
or
posted on the website as well.
the what
We
posted?
have, like, when you have the speakers. That might be a spot, putting a
Couldn't we push that out through Skyward though? I mean, we push out
Yes,
announcements.
that's another way to do it too.
Right.
Sometimes you have to you assume that the kids read their
Yeah, we're getting
emails.
to the point with Gina.
And they don't always-
They don't read
They don't
that.
read their
Right.
email.
So that's
all the
why we really
things I just
try-
heard,
We really
they're
try.
not gonna get to that person.
Sure, that's why we
Right.
really, like I said, we try to pound the pavement in terms of, for us, it's the connection and it's the relationship piece. So talking to teachers to say, do you have students in your class who fit this profile? Have you talked to students or seen essays that students are writing about wanting to engage in this particular pathway? And so we'd really try to rely on the adults in the building and the relationships they have with our students to try to catch those students that don't.
Yeah, I would
Get it
imagine you
by the
can
traditional
pick out
means.
those kids that aren't
Yes.
on that AP track.
Yes.
And try to figure out okay.
And you also
What can
know
we
those
offer?
students who maybe aren't going to check their email,
Yeah.
who aren't going to be listening to the announcements because maybe they don't get here right away in the morning, whatever the case may be. So for us, it really becomes, when we're looking for students and giving them experiences, it becomes kind of an all hands on deck, who knows who, and we can piece it together that way to try to make sure we don't have students that are slipping through the cracks.
Do we push this out also so the parents see it too? If it comes out through Skyward, then the parents
You
know
can.
that there is.
Yes, you can make a Skyward message that goes out to, I can say I want it sent to families and students, just families.
Because a lot
So
of
we
times
have
a
that.
parent will pick it up and say, hey, I think you might
You're
be
doing
interested.
this.
Right? And what we heard prior to the election, and we heard this in a big way, that we are not getting our message outside of these walls.
Mm-hmm.
And so even parents were asking, what do you have available for the kids? And I was, which kind of surprised me a little bit.
Yeah, communication will be a big key of that initiative.
So this internship, you say rising juniors and seniors.
Mm-hmm.
But you're gonna communicate that down to the freshmen and sophomore, you're not?
Yes.
Because with that GPA being 2,
Yeah.
you don't wanna have a junior showing up and saying,
I want to do this, but I can't.
Right.
Yes. Yep. So the next piece is the language, the proposed language that we would envision putting in the curriculum guide next October. This is what we reviewed with the Curriculum Advisory Council to just give an outline of what the expectations would be going into this. This would be an experience of 80 on-the-job internship hours at an internship site that the student chooses and arranges. based on their specific post-secondary pathway. A designee from the high school would then visit the internship twice, once at the midway point and once toward the end, to work with the internship supervisor to determine a student's grade on the internship, whether that be a pass or a fail. And as Dr. Skinka said, we're looking at being able to give a student 0.5 credit in either the applied arts elective area or the general elective area. One of the questions that was submitted was about the number of elective credits that students need to graduate from RB, and we have 2.5 units of elective credit that students need to get to meet their graduation requirements. So this would be able to fulfill 0.5 of that. The chart that you see on this page outlines how a student would be able to get credit applied in the applied arts area. And so what we did was we looked at the different categories and different pathways that we offer through our classes in the applied arts. And we wanted to ensure that if a student was going to get applied arts credit for an internship in one of those areas, that they took the courses that would prepare them to go into that field. So for example, if a student was going to do an internship at Hollywood Motors and earn applied arts credit for it, they would need to have taken David's Introduction to Auto classes, so that we know when we're awarding applied arts credit that the students have progressed in that pathway, and that we're sending them out to Hollywood Motors knowing something about what they're doing, and so that the organizations that we work with will be able to see that we've prepared the students in those areas. One of the things that we cleared up language-wise as a result of our meeting was making sure to note in the requirements that a student who wanted to do an internship at a restaurant and wanted to, intern with a chef at a restaurant, but hadn't taken applied arts courses in foods to get the applied arts credit for that internship, could still do that internship, no problem. They would just be earning the general elective credit for it. So if we're replacing applied arts credit for an internship, we want to make sure that the student has done sort of what we would consider the prerequisite coursework to be able to get the credit in that particular area.
Hey, can you clarify something for me? Maybe I didn't answer. So there's 2.5 hours of elective credits required. And they're applied art, general. Is there any other elective credits besides applied arts or general?
Foreign language is an elective credit.
Fine arts, visual arts,
So
all of those would.
2.5, do you need any certain number or there's just 2.5 that can go into any
It's
category?
general.
So there's 2.5 of what we call additional electives. So we still have students required to take that half unit of cultural and global area
Right.
studies, and they can waive it. The half unit of fine arts survey, there are certain stipulations
Well,
for
the reason-
waiving it.
So there's no certain amount of applied art credits required, right?
No.
So, I mean, it just seems a little odd to me, and I don't have a problem with it, is in order to get the internship, you have to take 2 units of applied art credit to get another half unit for something you don't even need to, 1.5 units of elective credit for that.
So what we're trying to do in that vein is we have very robust course offerings in our
Right.
building, and we want students to benefit from our courses
Right.
as well as going out into the world and getting that experience as well. Since we have in these areas some courses that would better prepare a student to go out into the industry
Right.
and be very successful there, we want to encourage those students to take our courses to prep them for
No,
that.
and I completely understand it, but if there's no requirement to take any applied art elective, is it a little kind of contradictory to say in order to take this for applied art credit, you have to take the other 2, because why not just not take them and get general elective? It doesn't affect them at all.
So there is,
what I'm trying
there is
to
cultural and
understand.
applied studies is 2 units, and students can choose underneath that 2 units of electives. They can take applied arts credit, world language credit, or fine arts credit.
Okay.
And so,
So you're applying
perhaps
it
a
to that
student
group.
chooses not to take a foreign language, and so they could have, 3 semester credits of applied arts, and then
Okay.
take fine arts survey and fulfill that 2.0 credit.
I was just trying to figure out, like, it didn't seem like there was an incentive really for them to do it, but now you're saying there is.
Yeah, it would be an incentive for the
makes sense
student who
that they
is
want 'em
really
to do it.
focused on the applied arts.
Yeah.
Otherwise, a general elective credit is probably more appropriate, yeah.
Okay. I mean, I think it's a good idea, I'm just don't know that it would motivate somebody to, if they just want to do the internship, okay, I'll take it as a general, not take the other 2 courses, where if they're really interested in automotive, hopefully they're taking 2 courses
Correct.
before that, right? Okay.
So in these applied art classes, so what's our are we running them all the time? What kind of attendance do we have in them?
Depends on the course that you're talking about. We have a couple of classes that we've struggled to run in the past with our child development course and our human growth and development course, but that has not been because of lack of student interest. It's actually because there's a teacher shortage, and across the state of Illinois, family and consumer science classes are being it's very challenging to find teachers for that. But our courses like our marketing and web design, our game design and animation, David's auto courses, exploring technology, baking and pastry in our foods department, we show a lot of students that have interest. The students who maybe are not music kids and they're not art kids, a lot of them find their home in those classes and are really interested by those offerings.
So my question though is, are we running them? Do we have 20 kids in the classes? And if somebody wants to take an internship, are those classes actually running because we have sufficient numbers? I'm concerned that we're going to get ourselves in a little bit of a situation where somebody says, I want that elective credit, but you're not offering the class because there's only 10 of us who want it, so now you have to offer it.
I don't believe that applied arts courses have been on the list of courses under 20 that require board approval, perhaps since I arrived.
Okay.
So those are typically not courses that are difficult to fill.
That's a good question.
We just want to make sure we don't put the cart before
Right.
the horse.
Absolutely. Other questions on the summer internship
Is that it,
experience?
Kylie?
Thank you.
Thanks, Kylie.
Thank you.
So
Appreciate it.
I just have a quick question. What Kylie said, we did a lot in the curriculum. Are we going to revisit some of the other things we talked about?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Those typically go in the fall.
Okay.
The other things that we talked about right before the new curriculum guide then gets published for the upcoming school year.
I would
So usually
also-
like late September.
One of the things that was discussed that I think would be a better discussion under the new board was just continuing to always, as we continue to manage the deficit, is continuing to look at graduation requirements. I think that's probably what you were referring to.
Yes, so one of the things that, just plant a seed that's going to come back. The state of Illinois, I believe, is only 18 credits. It might be a little more. We require 22. By us not requiring 22, we can still encourage kids to take the 7 classes, but there are some students who might say, I would prefer to be out early and just get a job, or I'd prefer to graduate in 3 years, or 3.5 years, go to Triton, grab a half year of electives and start college. There's a lot of options that if we don't have to require 22, that might open some doors for us. As we are financially stretched, we might save some sections in classes we don't have to have because we're not requiring those extra hours. And the students might be picking them up at Triton, which will help them in college anyway, or a job or something else.
Paired up with his internship, like you
Yes.
said, and leave at noon.
Yeah, so just something to think about, some options. I'm not saying we don't want to encourage anybody to take what they want. I'm just saying it would give students an option, it would give us an option, and, it could be in our favor.
So I raised the question on how many students actually take advantage of it in their senior year. Because I know 4 people who did this last year who were finished by January, and then they went to Triton for that second half year. But you guys, as a new board coming on, I think you're still handcuffed because you hired teachers for the full year.
Right.
So you can't go in January 1st and say, oh yeah, by the way, we've gotten 20 people who have decided not to take that second half, and now we can cut a class down. So just think about that.
Yeah, I think that's a process about establishing the requirements.
Right.
So that you can see those numbers when you have enrollments in the spring, so you can staff accordingly. I think that's a good point by Gary. I think Laura brings up a good point. These are all things we'll have to revisit as we continue to manage the finances. Thank you, Kylie.
Thanks.
Thank you, Kylie.